Thank you for coming back. We are here with Marilu Schmier. She is the author of Waiting for Weston, a book that is available in spring of 2012. You can get your copy on Amazon.com or the website WestonSchmier.com. Marilu, in the book you talk about a lot of strange behaviors that you observed Weston having. What was the strangest or most annoying that you didn't understand?
Well, they're all strange and they're all annoying.
Well, that's good. So.
No, I would say probably the one that's the most annoying, mostly for Dawn more than me because I've come to accept it, and thank goodness we live in Southern California, is the whole not wearing shoes. He used to wear shoes, never was a big fan of them, but he definitely wore them, and he definitely wore them when he went to school, when he went to private school. And I would say when he was about 7 or 8 is when he stopped wearing them completely. He hasn't worn them since.
Wow.
It's been like 10 years, and he hasn't worn anything on his feet. So that was quite annoying. And I, when I remembered when it was first happening, of course, you know, you think I'm the parent, I'm gonna overpower you, little toddler. I'm gonna stick this shoe on your foot, and you know, that just, the reaction was not normal on his part. He would just, it was like I was sticking, you know, coals in between his toes. It was just he was just really just horrified, and you know, after doing that for a couple times, and I'm like, you know, this is something a little different than just don't wanting to be wearing shoes. And of course, you know, Dawn was like, no, it's a behavior. Because you know, again, you go back, exactly. You go back to waiting for Weston to be the little boy you want him to be, the boy that wears shoes. And I started, you know, talking to the alternative people who I had already come in contact with at that point. And they explained to me over and over again, because I'm kind of thick when it comes to that he really needs to feel grounded. And when he wears shoes, it actually interrupts the flow of energy that comes out of him and goes right into the earth. And coincidentally, I actually read something I think it was I can't remember, it was a fitness magazine, that's very appropriate, and that's very something that everybody should do at least a couple of times a week. Weston happens to do it 24 hours a day, but that was a very annoying behavior that he still does.
So how do his feet look?
They're clean.
Okay.
Scrub them every night. You know, they're wide, but then again, that just could be because of his you know, his ethnicity. I don't know why, but they look fine. I mean, nothing unusual. And asked me in 20 years, but right now they look fine.
All right.
But he never wears shoes ever. Cold, heat, doesn't matter.
Really? When you go out.
Yeah. Well, you can imagine we don't really, you know, go to restaurants often, as you can imagine, because of the whole shoe thing. But that's okay. We're fine with that. But no, he never wears. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how hot it is outside. It doesn't matter how cold it is, and he does feel it. It's not like he doesn't.
Right.
It's not because he has, you know, he's dead on there.
Right.
But that is just something he just needs to do. So.
All right. So here you have your son who does not wear shoes.
Yep.
And then people start coming into your life who are telling you he's a spiritual healer. Like, what made you start believing them and knowing that they were legitimate people? I mean,
well, you know, I wasn't too impressed when they said that, to be honest with you. I mean, it was nice, but that wasn't going to get his shoes on his feet. So, you know, that was my focus was making him like everybody else. So, you know, it really wasn't something that someone says it and someone says it 10 times later and you say, oh yeah, okay, I believe it now. It really wasn't like that. And people ask me a lot, and it really, and Dawn as well, and it really was a very slow progress. You know, it was accumulation of experiences with him, and I talk a lot about them in my book. It was him going to the fountain store, which, you know, it's detailed, but it was that experience, and it was him predicting earthquakes, and it was him, you know, him telling my girlfriends that the reason why your child is sick is because they need this test, and, you know, the girlfriends finally do it, they ask their doctor, and sure enough, the test reveals that the kid has something. So it definitely wasn't something that we believed overnight. And you know, with another favorite story of mine is when he told a very good friend of mine, her son would be accepted as a Rhodes Scholar. Okay, there was just no way he would have known that, but he knew that, and he told her that, and it happened, and that he would get accepted to Princeton. I mean, it's very interesting parts of the book, and it was just a very slow progression of all of those things over many years, and you know, where he is today didn't happen overnight either. For him, it was also him seeking out certain healers and people who were going to help him along that journey that got him to this point. And, he's like everybody else. He's not finished growing. He's not finished, improving himself.
Right.
But it certainly was me taking the time to listen to him, to pray about it, to feel confident in my faith that this is where God is leading me, and us doing it, and then him getting to this point. But it didn't happen overnight. So.
You mentioned some of the people that came into your life. Who are some of the some main players in your story that communicate with Weston?
Well, the first one obviously is Dr. Meg Blackman-Losey, who wrote the foreword on the book. Thank you. She was a huge component of the story. But surprisingly, when you read the book, my relationship with Dr. Meg and my introduction to Dr. Meg doesn't happen until probably, I'd say 180 pages into the book. I mean, there's a lot of story before I even talk about Dr. Meg. And then the other Meg is Meg Lupin, who is someone who's probably the most public face of Weston right now. She actively voices for him. And I don't talk about her till probably 200 pages into the book. So you can see that there's a lot of things that happen ahead of time before I even talk about them. But those two are obviously integral to his story, as well as my sister. I'm the youngest of 5 girls. One of my older sisters, Carmen, is someone who also plays a big role in Weston's development and Weston's ability to come forward to be the person that he's supposed to be. So those are definitely ones. And then another one that really wasn't so much for Weston as much as for me was Chris Marms, who also works with Weston. And that's a funny story. When I meet her at a book signing for a woman who wrote a book about crystal children. And anyway, so I'm nervous when I meet her, and I make a fool of myself as usual. But anyway, so Chris Marms is her name, and she was there to help Weston, but really and truly she helped me a lot, and she still continues to help me quite a bit. And she's like my counselor. And I would call her and cry to her and whine a lot. And she would be the one that would help me to kind of center myself and be calm about trying to fix Weston, and to just have patience. And I really could not have made the journey with him had it not been for Chris. So.
Another person that we haven't talked about yet is your oldest son, Randall.
Okay.
What is his relationship like with his little brother, Weston?
Well, Randall and Weston are 19 months apart. So very close in age. And I don't think Randall remembers a time when there wasn't a Weston. So good or bad. They're very close in age, and they're not as close as you would think they would be given their age because of Weston's inability to speak with Randall in a traditional sense. But Randall is completely accepting of Weston. I was saying earlier, I think it's astounding that he's never once asked, neither Don or I, why Weston doesn't speak the way everyone else does. He accepts him like we accept Weston for who he is. No, he doesn't speak, traditionally, but he does communicate. And Randall is fine with him. I was saying, I think Randall, lots of times I think some of the kids with special needs siblings, they are sometimes a little jealous because the parents spend so much time obviously trying to attend to the child. And I think in Randall's case, he probably would say that we spent way too much time, focusing on him. So, but yeah, it's a very balanced relationship. Weston does, bratty little brother things, like all little brothers would do. Maybe not, just take the car or anything like that, but yeah, he does. So, but they get along well, and Weston listens to him, and it's quite normal, believe it or not.
So, a normal family.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you, Marilu. We'll be back with more from Marilu Schmier, author of Waiting for Weston.